guys, this is Joe B. I'm gonna really talk about forgotten history. This is really intuitive data that everybody really clear on anymore because there aren't too many pure hearts in the world, relatively speaking, pure enough to know this data as, yeah, that's true. So, right from the way back, there were ape beings, and then they evolved naturally, not from the Darwinian model, but through natural growth without too much direct interference from extraterrestrial life. And they evolved into the species Homo erectus. So, they had opposable thumbs and everything. These apes could use simple stone tools. Their physical DNA was similar to ours. They were really, really primitive, but they weren't really humans at all. They weren't like as smart as we are. And this is so many thousands of years ago. A couple hundred thousand years ago. And this was in Africa. And then really the big leap where we jumped in consciousness was when the ET beings came down, and then they took those apes that I was talking about and chose them to be part of their genetic experiments. So basically, there's another planet in our solar system that has an irregular orbit. It's called Nibiru, and it has a very irregular orbit, and it only comes around once every 12,000 years. So, these beings, they weren't really, super advanced angelic race just yet. They had, rocket ships like ours, so they had to actually wait till our planet got close. The advanced angelic beings in physical bodies, they don't have to wait till their planet gets close to space-time warp. They just space-time warp, and they open up a portal in front of their ship, and then they fly through it, or they're guided to the natural portals, and they know how to go on the natural highways. And even there's higher above that. But these beings, they were kind of where we are. They had rockets and stuff, and they had genetic mastery to a certain degree. We can alter genetically. And anyways, they saw these apes that had opposable thumbs and stuff, and then they chose those apes, and they took the DNA from that, and they mixed it with their own DNA, and with a couple other ETs, other rhesuses too, which interfered on subtler levels, if you will. But the main players were these Anunnaki or Nephilim from the planet Nibiru, or Marduk as it's called in the Bible. And then they created the Garden of Eden, which had gold mines around it, and they needed the gold to be mined from our planet so they could use it in their atmosphere and have gold in their atmosphere to alter the conditions of their planet. So then, as their planet came back every 12,000 years, then they'd pick up the gold again. So that was like Hill and Enki. Those are the two brothers who really led the whole operation. They had, like, if there was an umbrella over the whole thing, then it was Hill and Enki over the top of it that was running it. And basically to talk about what culture we were, what race, it's still not really comparable to the races you see today. It's not accurate to compare them. And so we were working for them. And eventually, as you'll remember, it says we ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So we started to find out about the tree of life, and how to be better people, and how to not sin and everything. So eventually, after he found out enough of that, it wasn't appropriate for them to control us and have us mining gold for them anymore. So we spread out and really took on our own race for ourselves. And this was still, a long, long time ago. This was, way before Egypt and all that. It was before the Fertile Crescent, like Mesopotamia. That's really after the flood. This is still way back, 100,000 years, probably really 80,700, 70,000 years or 80,000 years, probably about 77,000 years. 77,000 years ago, we started to move out of the Garden of Eden, and they're not controlling us and making us mine gold anymore. And that's when we started branching off, and also other ET races started to come in, like and they helped alter our genetics even more, like the Pleiadians and the bird gods came in, and basically under the umbrella of our planet, there's a certain amount of like things going on, but we made Lemuria, and the races, there's all sorts of kind of races, I'm not even going to go through it. It's not comparable to our races. There's even like genetic manipulation still from like the Pleiadians and the bird gods, like that, there's like half human, half dog, and like those are like the werewolves, and like they were attuned to like the moon and everything. So there was some crazy stuff going on, but it was really like who we were. And then after Lemuria kind of fell and the earth changes, there's this 25,190 year cycle related to the wobble of equinox. So, that's 72 years for 1 degree, and that's how it goes, 1 degree as it goes around the wobble. If you're spinning a top, then it's wobbling on top as it's spinning. So 72 times 360 is 25,190, and if you split that in half, that's when really the earth changes, or so like every 12,000 years. That's why the flood's 12,000 years ago. But we'll get back to that. That's when Egypt and Samaria began. So we went into Atlantis after Lemuria sunk, and there was the different races, but there's still like humans that were closer and closer to us, and there weren't as many like cat people and dog people around. And then eventually Atlantis fell, and like Halloween's commemorative of Atlantis falling. That's a very, very long story. I'll get into it another time. But that's Halloween, one of my favorite holidays. So Atlantis fell, and the Earth changes after that. That was exactly 12,000 or 11,000 years ago, and that was half of this big long cycle, and so Noah's Ark and everything. That's what that's talking about, and then that goes into Egypt and Samaria, and there's like dual evolution coming up as that's going on, and that was guided by the Ascended Masters and everything. But after Atlantis fell, our consciousness went way down, so we didn't really know too much about spirituality and everything, and that's really when we became the humans we are today. For like Atlantis fell, and then Egypt and Samaria, that's how we became the humans we are today, when that fell. And that's really the history. I mean, there's hidden history about Egypt and Samaria, of course, but that's for another time. I wouldn't believe Gilgamesh has an exact story that tells about the times in Samaria, but after the flood. But Gilgamesh, that's a mesh. Get it? Mesh. That's an amalgamation of different stories and archetypes spun together into something enjoyable. It's not to be taken literally, but that tells about the times. That's Gilgamesh. And then Egypt coming up through, so that's getting closer and closer to the races we had today, but we still had the Native Americans. They didn't go over like through Alaska. They were there. They got their leftovers dispersed out after Atlantis fell, and there were the earth changes. But then Egypt and Samaria were really the big ones for our culture, and then that's history today. And